Hello everyone, and welcome. I'm out here at one of our favorite campsites, and I brought along my nephew Matt and his son Tristan. They're over setting up their tent right now, and I'm about to go set up my hammock. We're going to be spending the night. There you go, let's just fuck himself. We got just a couple of little raindrops when we first got here, so I'm trying to hurry up and set up, but it seems to have stopped. So I've got the hammock set up. I've got my regular 2 blankets, my Afghan and my wool blanket. I'm gonna stick these in here for tonight. It was nice and sunny when we left, but now the clouds are rolling in. I checked before leaving and they weren't calling for any rain until tomorrow afternoon, but sometimes when you get out here things change. Hopefully the rain holds off. So now that he's using that hand pump to pump the mattress, is now a good time to tell you that if you'd have reminded me, I'd have brought my battery operated one. Can't forget our Dollarama pillows for under our knees. And the last time I was out here, I had used that little neck pillow, but the case it comes with broke. So I just made one. Couple of snaps. So because there is a chance of a shower, I opted for my bigger tarp. I'm going to leave the doors open, let some airflow go through, but if the rain does come down really hard, I can always close the doors. Let me give you a tour. Now I've got this little drip line set up so that any water that comes along here should hit this line and drip down to the ground before getting anywhere near my hammock. I've got one at either end. The hammock is in there, nice and snug. And then these corner flaps, I've got them clipped together in the center here. I did the same on the other side. I clipped the two together. But these are on a shock cord with a little carabiner at the end. So if the rain gets too heavy, I can unclip from the center and clip this corner to this side and this side to that side, and it'll effectively close the doors. So we should be in for a nice and comfortable night. Always have their tent all set up. And there's Bentley. So all that's left now is I'm going to set up a tarp in here somewhere, just to keep us covered in the event that it does rain. So far it's been just a light sprinkle here and there, but better to be covered and safe than wet and cold. Tarp is set up. I've got it pitched a little bit low over the fire pit We'll have to be very careful with our fire. But at least now we've got a spot the three of us can sit under here if it starts to rain too hard. Right now it's just a light drizzle, and it spits, it stops, it spits, it stops. So the boys have gone fishing. I had the tarp pitched up a little bit higher, but it wasn't taut enough and I didn't like the way it was sitting, so I rearranged it. So the boys are set up on the main rock fishing, and I'm about to set up and try my luck casting out this way. So we spent a big part of the afternoon fishing. Matt caught 2 that we could keep. And then he dropped a couple that we could have kept back into the water. But that's okay. The ground is all sloped here. The rocks are very sloped. You drop that fish, that's it. He's back in the water, guaranteed. They use it like a slip and slide. Tristan caught a couple, mostly smaller ones. He's gone down for a nap right now. He was a little tired from his day. Matt's trying to catch a couple more, and I'm gonna go and clean the 2 we've got. And then later we're gonna light the fire and have some supper. So here's those 2 bass that Matt caught. Be a great addition to tonight's supper. So the fire's just about ready to start cooking, so I went in the cooler to get the steaks. They're still frozen. I'm gonna let the fire burn down just a little bit more. We'll get them over the heat, hopefully cook them slow enough that they'll thaw and cook, and we'll end up having to cook them just a little more than we want to, just to get them to thaw. But they'll still be delicious. We have some of that bass that we're going to eat once the steaks are done. We were going to have steak and rice, but now that we have that much bass, I think it's just going to be surf and turf. We're going to eat the steak and then eat the fish. And then if we're still hungry, I can make the rice, but I don't think we'll be making rice. We had a little bit of a competition while we were fishing. We had 2 fish on the stringer, and I tied the stringer to a rock, and I tossed the fish in the water, and we noticed the fish were moving, so I went to have a look. There's a big turtle in there trying to steal our fish. So I had to get the fish out of there. We watched that turtle fart around. Big part of the afternoon. He kept coming around here, there, and everywhere where we were fishing. It was interesting.
Je vais toucher là maintenant voir comment c'est. Je l'ai pas là-bas though.
But now we're going to wait for this to burn down just a bit more, and then I'll throw the steaks on. When I was driving in, I had that feeling like I forgot something, and just as I was getting here, I remembered that I forgot the steak spice. So I turned around, and there's a little restaurant just down the road, not that far away, and there's a small confectionery in there. They sell a few little odds and ends. So I went in there looking for some kind of a steak spice. Well, when I asked the girl at the counter if they had some kind of a steak spice, she says, "Hold on a second, I've got something for you." And she took off and went on the restaurant side, and she came back and she brought me just a little container, and she just mixed up some spices for me and gave it to me to put on the steaks. I opened it a minute ago. Oh, it smells awesome. I'm gonna have to stop there and ask her what is in it, because that smells really good. So we're having steaks with mystery spice, and I brought some fish crisp, so we're gonna use that for the bass. Should be a great supper. Okay, so I've got 2 grills over here over this tiny little fire, and I've got the fire burning at the back so that if I need more coals later, I can pull them in. But because these steaks are still partially frozen, they're gonna have to get on here so that they can thaw and start to cook. So the steaks are almost done. I'm going to pull them off soon and let them rest. While they're resting, I've got a plate here that I put original fish crisp in. I'm going to get the fish out of the bucket and put the pieces in here. But before I do that, I stole a little trick from Marc over at Open Air Outdoors. I was heading out the door and I remembered that I forgot to pack the oil. But we had some shortening. So I just put it in this container. I'm going to add some shortening to the pan. Get the pan over the heat and melt the shortening, which will create an oil that'll cook the fish. So as soon as the steaks are ready, I'm going to get a generous amount of this into the pan. And when I pull the steaks off, I'll put this on the fire. Use that for now. I'll add more later if I see I need more. Because you want a pretty good amount of oil to cook the fish in. I've also gone and gathered up a bunch of cedar boughs so that as the fish is cooked, I can put it on here just to drain some of the fat off. Get rid of some of that oil. Good thing I watched last week's video, eh, Marc? Thanks. Great tips. So I've got all the fish in this bucket. I'm just going to toss some in here and start coating them. The steaks are a little more done than I would like them to be. But unfortunately, because they were still frozen, we didn't have much of a choice in the matter. Now I'm going to move some of these hot coals back underneath and get that pan going. Now let's get that shortening melted. So here we go with the first batch of fish. Oh, let me move to this side, get out of the smoke. So I've got a plate to use as a support, and I'm just putting cedar boughs on it. And as I'm taking the fish off, I'm just going to place it on the boughs. And that should drain off most of the oil. Once again, thank you, Marc. Open Air Outdoors for the fantastic tip. I'll put a link to his channel in the description below. Wow! If I can get this out without burning myself or throwing it away. What's the matter, Matt? You got a fishy shoe? Ooh, that's hot. So we each have a few pieces of fish and a really nice steak to eat. Oh. Very good. The steak is very good. Because it was cooked from frozen, it's a little bit on the chewy side. But out here in the woods, who cares? I'm going to pull the grills off, throw a few more sticks on the fire, and I think we're going to put away the camera for tonight because the sun's going down, it's going to be dark soon. So we're just going to sit here and enjoy our evening. See you guys in the morning. Morning, everyone. Just set the water on to boil. Gonna get ready and have breakfast and some coffee. It's a great night last night. Sat by the fire, roasted some marshmallows. We crawled into bed last night, and at some point during the night it it started to rain. And when I woke up this morning, it was coming down pretty good. It seems to be slowing down now. I turned on my Zoleo and I checked the weather for this area. And apparently it's supposed to clear up a little bit later this morning. So hopefully it stops early enough that I can actually let everything dry out before I take it home. If not, oh well, looks like I'm bringing home some wet tarps. Perfectly dry in the hammock though. Slept like a baby. Very, very comfortable. I can hear the boys rolling around in the tent. I guess they're going to be getting up soon. And then we'll all have coffee and get ready to go about our day. So the boys are gone for one last attempt at fishing. I decided to stick around and start putting some of this stuff away. The nice thing with the hammock, the tarp is all wet. If it was raining right now, I could take apart the whole hammock without ever getting anything wet. Because I could take the hammock apart, put it away under here where it's dry, and then put the tarp away. The dilemma now is that tarp is still wet and it's still a bit damp outside. The trees are still dripping a little. So I'm gonna have to put the tarp away wet and then dry it out when I get home. But at least the hammock will be dry. I'm just in the process right now of getting all my flashlight or my headlamp. There's the bag for this tarp. Put it down there where it's dry. There's the rope I use to tie my blankets. I got to set up a dry spot outside somewhere so that I can roll up the blankets. I've got this tarp on the ground and it should be just the right length for my blankets. Fold the wool blanket. Into thirds. Then I'm going to get the Afghan and do the same thing. Put it on top and fold it up into thirds. Now I just roll it up. Fold my paracord in half. Double it over to create loops. One side goes in from one direction. One side goes in from the other direction. Cinch it tight. So again, I find the center point, wrap it underneath. Now I take my center point, I fold it back on itself, then I twist it around. Hopefully you were able to see that. Then I take one side and go through this way. Bring the other side around and go through the loop in the other direction. Then when I pull them tight, it snugs up the whole bedroll. That's ready to be put on my pack and carried out of here. Now that everything's emptied out of here, the bag for my underquilt is at this end. So I unclip it from here and I just start pulling the underquilt, stuffing it back into its sack, making my way down to the other end. Once I get to this end, I can unclip, finish stuffing, and now the underquilt there. Okay. So now the underquilt is back in its pouch. It has not touched the ground. And I've got the carabiner at this end and the carabiner at this end ready to deploy again. And I haven't come out from under the tarp. So if it was raining, this would still be nice and dry. Once I've taken apart the bug net, I can coil up my lines, staying under the tarp here. Nice and dry. Lines are put away. Now I undo the carabiner at this end and I just start bunching it up, get to my pocket, start stuffing it in. Hammock still hasn't touched the ground. Just keep working my way towards the other end, stuffing as I go. And all of this is nice and dry. Now this tarp is still damp. I'm not going to have time to dry it out. So instead of trying to roll it and put it back in its sack, I think I'm just going to gather it up, and I've got a small garbage bag. I'm going to put this wet tarp and the other wet tarp inside it. That way when I get home I can just stretch them out again and let them dry out before I put them away. Shake the tarp. Just to get as much water off of it as I can. And now in my pocket I have just a small white kitchen garbage bag, and I think that's going to be big enough that I can just stuff the tarp in it, and then when I get home it'll be easy to pull out and set it out to dry. Now I'm free to just bag up the tarp. All that's left to do is to coil up my ridgeline and stick it back in the bag. So we're almost all packed up. We just stopped to have a little bite for lunch. All that's left really is to put away this tarp, and then we're heading out of here. But it was a great weekend. Some good fishing. Even if we had to fight the turtle for it. We want to thank you for coming along. Always a pleasure having you here. And if you liked what you saw, go ahead and hit the like button. If you want to see more of it, hit the subscribe button. If you do that, you may as well hit the notification bell. When you do, there'll be a drop-down menu. In that menu, select all, and that should let you know whenever we put out a new video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.